Welcome to another devlog. This is Minima. It's a game. So the first world, Azure. Quite an important one. It's the first bit of gameplay that you as the player are going to be faced with, so it's essential that it's, not shit, not bad. Step 1 was to do some research, and by research I mean watch YouTube videos. Specifically, let's talk game design. A while back, Zed made a video on how level design is like Bob Ross creating a painting. Firstly, a foundation, which is the main blocks and things in the level that don't really move, and then layers on top of it. Things like jump pads, portals, spikes, and saw blades. Now, I definitely want to do a big level design video in the future, but I don't think I'm quite there yet. Instead, I'm going to be making this really simple first world. Again, this is the easiest thing that you'll play, and so I want it to feel welcoming and not like you've been dropped into the depths of Tartarus. You might be thinking, Icoso, this level looks really simple and boring. So you start on the very left of the screen. Just like the original Super Mario Bros, platformers go to the right, and sometimes up and down, and if it's a Metroidvania then you go to the left. But hey, I'm not original, we're only going right. You'll come across your first problem if you just hold right though, because you'll walk right into the set of spikes. This brings up probably the most important part of Minima. Triangles are pointy. Triangle equal kill. There are a couple of ways to avoid these spikes if you want to beat the level. You can A, jump over them. Boom! Second important lesson in Minima. Jump over things to not hit the things you're supposed to be jumping over. Very swag. These next two platforms may look a bit different, but they're actually posing the exact same challenge to the player. In all of these spots, you have to jump to avoid a hazard. The only difference here is that these are spikes and this is a pit of doom. I've also raised this ground up a little bit, not enough that the player has to wall jump or anything, but enough to realize the variation in height. Now as you can see, I've spent a whole bigger bunch of long on the time on the last part of the level. And it looks super simple and boring, because it is. But I think I've pulled a big brain move. This jump is not big enough to make with just a single jump. You will always fall into the pit. You can't jump far enough to get onto the wall and wall jump your way up to the end portal, and that's because I didn't want to introduce too many game mechanics in the very first level. So the only way to get across this gap is by using the double jump. Oh, but Icoso, you said you didn't want to introduce more game mechanics in the first level. So that's the first level, nice and quick, and it shouldn't be too challenging. At least I hope so, because the game will get harder and a bit more involved than this, I promise. But that's only one level, we need a lot more to fill up an entire world, so I got started on creating another 15. My design choice is that for each world you will have 16 levels. Why 16? Because 16 is a very good number and I like it. These new levels slowly ramp up in difficulty, but it doesn't get too insane. My target audience is casual gamers like myself, and I've come to terms with the fact that I'm actually a pretty terrible gamer. Like, I'm not good, and I know that I'm making this game so I do have an advantage, but seriously, these levels shouldn't be too much of a problem for you. And this is a pretty big moment, because it's the first world, it's done. It's not great, but it's finished, and I'll come back to this at some point and polish it up, and if possible, I don't want to add text on the screen that says something like, oh hey, you can double jump by the way, because, well, that seems a bit tacky to be honest, and Minima already feels so much like a 2012 Flash game that I didn't want to push it over the edge and end up releasing it on Cool Mass Games. So that's been some good progress, but the game as a whole is feeling a bit weak and loose. The game do be floppy. I've been wanting to add a pause menu for a long time now, so I finally just grit my teeth and did it. I think it's pretty self-explanatory what the home button does. It takes you back to the main menu, and for the stopwatch, it should show you the speedrun timer, except it doesn't show you the speedrun timer, because there is no speedrun timer, so I made the speedrun timer. Yeah. It's nothing super fancy, it's not in your face or anything, and it just does what you expect. It counts up and you can toggle it on and off in the pause menu if you don't want the constant pressure of having to beat your best time. Although, what's good about getting a great speedrun time and then not being able to show it off? I wanted to make a way that you could save your best time and you can keep trying to get better scores. I've done lots of game jams, and whenever I do them, I always use Unity's player prefs to save data. But apparently this isn't very good. I don't know why, but apparently not. So this was my first dive into using JSON. JSON was very scary at first, but I soon got the hang of it. It took me a couple hours to be fair just to write out a simple text file with code, but hey, I'm just happy it works. Also, I know it's not pronounced JSON, I'm just being funny. So with the JSON saving system, I was able to save the player's best time in a text file, but there were also lots of other things that I could use this for to make the game feel nice. For example, if you're playing through a world and turn on the speedrun timer, the game is going to remember that whenever you start a new run. So if you come back at some point and play the game again, the speedrun timer will be up by default, and this isn't a huge thing, but I think is just a nice mechanic. Another thing that I've used JSON for is a sort of continue system. If you get to say level 5 in a world and then want to stop playing, you can exit to the home screen. You'll get a little pop-up saying your progress will be saved, and guess what? Your progress will be saved. How crazy is that? When you play the same world, you'll get to choose to continue from your last save point or just start a new run. Now these have all been very small changes, which is okay because these things make the game have a really good structure. I think one of the most off-putting things that a game can have is messy UI and confusing buttons to simply save progress or change panels, especially for a commercial game which Minima hopefully will become. So I'm really glad that I have this back-end functionality working, but now to a little bit more actual game progress. I made these 16 levels for the first world over the course of about 3 days, and I've played through them countless times to the point where I've almost memorized them. But I want to walk through some design choices that I have in these really easy levels to hopefully give you a bit of an idea of where I'm going with all of this. Now, I want to give the player as much freedom as I can, and without them knowing, actually playing them like a gosh darn fiddle. I want to control their every move, but make them think that they are being smart and skillful. So for example, most people are just going to be double jumping over these saw blades. You can single jump if you really want to, but there's not much point in it. So because most people will double jump, they'll land in this general area, which sets you up really nicely for another double jump to get over this saw and into the end portal. However, for the keen, energetic players who are wanting to speedrun and get the fastest times, you're actually able to complete this last bit with a single jump, shaving a little bit off your final time. Now this may not seem like much, I totally get that, but this is only one of a lot of small things that I hope will make the game feel more fluid and nicer to play. It also opens the range of the ways that you can play the game, from very casually and having fun to competitively and throwing your controller at the screen. Here in level 13, you can simply choose to jump or double jump over the saw blades, but then right after, you'll approach this long shaft of saws. Now, lucky for me, I have a lot of experience handling long shafts, and it leads you into a sequence of 2 double jumps to firstly get over the saw blade and then up to another higher platform. But then you'll see that the portal is almost directly above you, so you have to be careful to pull out and wall jump your way to finish the level. This is near the end of the world, so I thought this would be a good place to incorporate the skills that you've learned from playing the previous levels. Once you complete the final level in a world, it'll take you to this screen. It shows you the time of your run and best time, and if you get a new personal best, you'll get this little star to appear. Because stars good. You can choose to restart the world, go to the world select screen, or simply just go back to the main menu. Now this is a working game loop. Pretty good for testing purposes and makes it a lot easier to send it out to people for playtesting. And so I'm working towards a demo when I complete some more level building. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you to my supporters over on Patreon, especially Chansey, Derpidano35, Devin Rosenthal, Jacob, Spibble and Trash Taku.